The start of the 2023 college football season is here. It's week 0 this weekend. What prospects do you need to know? Are we betting for or against the spread? And who's going to win? We'll tell you next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm the host of the Locked On Clemson Football Podcast. Guys, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. Thank y'all for being the family and our everydayers, and happy Friday to you. Guys, it's week 0 of college football, and there's none other that I'd rather sit across the wave than talk about football with than my guy, Mr. LSU, Keith Sanchez, that you can find on Twitter at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, Senior Draft Analyst with the Draft Network, man, and 2019 National Champ with those LSU Tigers, man. And like DP said, what is week 0 of college football, DP? So you know if there's college football, man, you know there's college prospects. This is the Locked On NFL Draft Prospect, podcast, but we got to talk about the prospects. So we're going to get into some prospects today, man. And we have quite a few slate of games, DP. We have USC playing this weekend. We have Notre Dame. And we have some HBCU action, man. So we want to dive into these NFL draft prospects, like I said, because this is the NFL Draft Podcast 24/7, 365. We don't stop over here. But DP, before we jump this thing off with the prospects that you should watch this weekend, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
This episode of Locked On NFL Draft is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with the promo code Locked On to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Keith, guys, football is here, man. It's finally here. College football, especially. We've had some preseason NFL action, but now having the college football here, Keith, I'm excited. And for me, man, looking at one of the teams that I'm very interested in this year, and I just really went through their roster recently this week for the Locked On Clemson podcast, is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, man. I think you talk about prospects to watch. To me, it starts on the offensive line. The left and right tackle, Joe Alt at left tackle, who's battling for that OT1 title. But his teammate, Blake Fisher, a guy that you watched in depth and studied this summer as well. You got 2 bookend tackles for a veteran quarterback in Sam Hartman, going up against Navy, man. And I'm really interested to see how those 2 tackles start the season, man. This is the opportunity for both of these guys to really put their best foot forward and push forward and just really set the tone for, especially with Joe Alt, right? Like 6'7", 320. Time to show people out there that, hey, man, I am the top guy. Not Olu Fashanu, not Amarius Mims, not J.C. Latham, but it's me. It's Joe Alt. But, him and Blake Fisher, those are the first 2 names that, that I thought of, Keith.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the matchup, DP, and them playing Navy, right? So this is, and they're playing in Ireland. So rather, interesting location is, I'm sure, this should be a one of those nostalgia type moments, right? Where, college football is not, in the United States, but it's across seas. I think Nebraska and Northwestern did this last year. Was it in Ireland?
Yep.
I can't remember if it was in Ireland or not, but they did.
It was somewhere over there.
Yeah. I think it wasn't, if I'm not mistaken, man. But like you said, this Notre Dame team, because Notre Dame, first of all, right, the Gold Domers, right, they're always going to have a lot of attention on themselves, right, just because of the branding and who they are. But like you said, this is a roster that people are trying to decide if it's good or if it's average, right? And then, like you said, it starts with this offensive line. So you threw out Joe Alt, and you threw out Blake Fisher, but they're also on it. I'm going through DP, and this is just tapping into, my times in recruiting, right? There's another guy that jumps off to me that I knew that he was a highly talented player in high school, going through his recruitment process, and that's Rocco Spindler. Another guy, and I just want to see how he plays, right? Because looking at it with quarterback Sam Hartman, another guy that we talk about, is going to be a player to watch. He's going to have the benefit of having a good offensive line. So now the question is this: is Sam Hartman going to be able to elevate his play? But DP, I want to do this. Can we transition to the defensive side of the football for Notre Dame? And I'm going to ask you, what are some names that jump off to you? Because they've lost Isaiah Foskey, right? Like, he's no longer there. The Kyle Hamilton, 2 years ago. So who's that guy for the Notre Dame defense this year?
Oh, man, it's in the secondary. Cam Hart, big, tall, long, athletic corner, 6'2", 207 pounds, long arms, a guy that plays a lot of kind of cover three, bail technique, but he can play man to man as well. And I think this is a talented corner group. And when we talk about the top corners, last year, I think when we were doing our old podcast, The Talent Factor, we talked about Cam Hart being one of those cornerbacks to watch in 2022. But this summer, when we talk about the top cornerbacks, Cam Hart's name wasn't mentioned. And I think this is, kind of the start of the season for him, where he can kind of stamp himself as a guy to watch all season when it pertains to the cornerback race, not just for cornerback 1 and 2, but just in general, Keith. But you talked about Isaiah Foskey going to the league. They got a guy that from Ohio State, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who transferred over, that's supposed to help fill that role. Tall, long arm, athletic young man who can play with his hand in the dirt. But I think if I remember when I watched him at Ohio State, I always felt like he was better better in like a 2-point stance, standing up, be able to get off the ball quick, worked around the edges and things like that. From a defensive end standpoint. But they have a guy that I'm really interested in, Keith, on the interior defensive line. Senior defensive tackle Riley Mims, 6'5", 306, young man that was able to get after the quarterback.
I heard a lot about him too.
Pocket.
Yeah, heard a lot about him just playing on that interior defensive line position. Just one of those guys say that just physically can hold a point of attack, very strong. High motor type football player. So he's just one of those names that when we did our preview, right? I don't know if we went over his name, but one of those guys that is now emerging and talking about throwing him into the group of interior defensive linemen. When we talked about that, this may be a class, right, that may have a lot of not smaller guys, but not big guys either, right? And they're what am I trying to say? I guess their trait, right? Their high level trait would be rushing the quarterback and shooting gaps. Riley Mills is one of those guys that you're probably going to lean on to stop the run, but also collapse the pocket too. So he's definitely going to be a name in the mix when it comes down the pipeline. But DP, I like doing this because I think that this perfectly translates right to wins and losses, right? So people wonder why we do this, man. You go and look at some of the better teams that won the national championship, DP, and I'm gonna tell you, they usually have 10+ draft prospects, right? And so usually talent wins out, right? Whether it's NFL, college, high school, the more talented teams wins out. So I love this. And we're going to get into the pick'em segment, but this is more so about talking about the draft prospects. But I love talking about these players in that light because it kind of paints a better picture of who should win the matchup. DP, we're about to go ahead and transition because, like I said, man, there are other matchups, right? We have USC playing, we have some HBCU action, but I think we're going to stop on USC, right? And talk about who are the key players that need to show up because guess what? Jordan Addison is gone. So who is that wide receiver that needs to show up this year for Caleb Williams if he wants to be a repeat Heisman candidate? We're going to get into it coming up next.
Guys, as a husband and a father, I shave for 3 people: myself, my wife, and my son. Having a great shave makes me feel confident, attractive, clean, and young. But no matter why you shave, Harry's has you covered for the best shave of your life at a price that you will love. I can tell you, I got the starter set. You want to talk about a deal, a $13 value for just $3 at harrys.com/NFL? You don't want to miss it. What came with it? A 5-blade German engineered razor, a weighted handle, foaming shaving gel, and a travel cover just in case you got to hit the road. I love all of that. And Harry's skincare products will help you out a lot. The creams, the washes, the lotions, all of it will help you keep your skin healthy and hydrated. So get the best shave of your life this summer, okay? This summer with Harry's razor and skin care products. Get a $13 starter kit value for just $3 at harrys.com/NFL. That's harrys.com/NFL for the $3 starter kit. The USC Trojans, Keith, we're going to hit a couple different things in this topic. We're going to kind of talk about this a little bit, some betting against the spread. But to finish off that conversation from the first segment in terms of prospects to watch, you said Jordan Addison's gone. Well, they have 3 wide receivers at USC that I'm watching. Mario Williams, the speedster that they put in the slot. Brendan Rice, who I believe is the son of Hall of Fame Jerry Rice.
Yep.
It's crazy to think about that. But then also there's a young man from Arizona that transferred in, Dorian Singer, who could ball. You know what I mean? When I was watching studying that offense, watching Jordan Morgan, and I'm watching the passing game. And Singer was out there, it was him and they kept, I think he's still there, Jacob Cowing, kind of the smaller, shifty, explosive slot receiver. But Singer stepping in, I was like, okay, this young man has game too. So I'm watching all 3 of those guys off the rip, Keith, because I'm going to say this. This is the start of Caleb Williams, of 2 things for Caleb Williams. This game starts his 2nd run for the Heisman, but also him solidifying himself and cementing himself as QB1 in the country and for the 2024 NFL Draft.
Yeah, so the reason I brought up the wide receiver position, right, because it's going to be so important for Caleb Williams and the way that he plays, right? Like that, and you watched it last year, that when you watch Caleb Williams, there were times that you felt like his receivers could have did a little bit more outside of Jordan Addison, right? Jordan did what Jordan was going to do and play at a high level, but outside of Jordan Addison, you felt like his receivers, could have done more. So I want to see, with Jordan Addison being gone, who was that guy, right? Who's going to step up? And I really like that you brought up Dorian Singer, because he could be a guy, DP, that no one's talking about right now. They could end up into that, potentially that top 3 round, potentially 2nd round lock type of football player if Caleb Williams is able to consistently feed him. And then, like you talked about, Mario Williams. Mario Williams is that Kadarius Toney-esque type player, right? That guy you put in motion, that you can put in the backfield, give handoffs to, that you can, line up in the slot, do a bunch of different things with him. But now the question is this. We talked about Kadarius Toney, but we just finished talking about Zay Flowers. Can he line up on the outside and win on the outside? That would be the question with Mario Williams, and how does he, because I think it's going to go far, right? Because everybody knows Mario Williams, and I think quite naturally he's one of the more talented players in this wide receiver core, obviously. But the thing is this, is he going to be specific in his usage, or is he able going to be versatile and he's able going to be that number 1 guy for Caleb Williams?
No, 100%, Keith. And I think, like I said, and even with staying on the offensive side of the ball, they brought back, in the running game, they brought back Austin Jones, their redshirt senior. But the guy that I'm looking for, is he coming from South Carolina, Marshawn Lloyd, 5-star running back that unfortunately his career was like slowed down by a knee injury early on. But him transferring over, him being healthy, ready to go. He's explosive, dynamic. You know what I mean? He shows the ability to make moves and make cuts in open field. This is a young man. I think that with Caleb Williams in that backfield, he can do a lot of damage. You know what I mean? If they get the run game going and even get him going in the passing game, along with, and I think they have him slate. He's kind of like a hybrid. This young man. He's not a prospect just yet, but keep your eye on number 14, Raleek Brown, running back / wide receiver. I mean, shout out to our boy Eric Crocker over at Locked On 49ers. He told me about him about 2 years ago while he was still in high school, because I think he coached the kid up, when he still was living in Cali and everything. And he just talked about how talented this kid is. But Keith, a guy that you talked about this summer, Corey Foreman on the defensive side of the ball for the Trojans. I just want to see how much snaps he get, man. What type of role is he going to play for this team? Because he was another 4 or 5-star recruit, highly touted. I want to see if we can finally get a breakout campaign from him. And I mean, this is the type of game that can catapult him forward.
Yeah, I mean, 5-star, he was the number 1 player in the country, right? So and I always talk about, right, stars, 5 stars, and all of that stuff. It just is relevance to you check some type of box at a high level, right? Whether that's the height, weight perspective, just something where you're off the charts. And the boxes that he checked, right, was obviously the height, the weight, the athleticism. But also he had the film there, right? And I watched this guy. I've talked to him in person, things like that. So, he checks all of those boxes, DP. Now it's like, okay, why is he not coming into his junior year, a top 10 guy, a top 20 guy, right? Just things like that in that nature. So I'm right on with you, DP, that I want to see if he's going to turn the corner and he's going to be a problem because he checks all of the physical tools. If you see this guy in person, you can be like, yeah, that's a football player. Yeah, he plays defensive end. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's at a top program. So he has all of those boxes. It's just a matter of where he's going to be able to fit in. And DP, you talked about him coming in, right? Another highly talented guy. USC, they went over to Georgia, right? And said, okay, can we get one of y'all guys? And they picked up Bear Alexander. Bear Alexander was another highly touted guy. He committed to the University of Georgia originally. I think he played there a year, maybe two. At the most. I don't know why they left, right? I don't know if it was a snap share issue or, who knows, right? With that situation, it could have been NIL money, right? But we know that he's a highly talented football player. And this is what this USC defense needs, right? Some big physical guys that can come in and play. So right now on the depth chart, DP, he's not listed as a starter, but obviously, defensive line rotations and everything else, they play themselves out. So he's another guy that I want to see how this plays out for him.
Yeah, I love that name call because I actually forgot I forgot he transferred from Georgia, but I remember the name Barry Alexander, and 100%, very talented kid. Think that he could bring that type of physicality they need on the interior defensive line. But two names in the secondary, Keith, arguably maybe safety one for some people, Kalen Bullock, the dude with all the range. Talk about a high post safety, we could put him up there by himself, the range and all that good stuff. Now, main thing I want to see, tackling. I need to see you tackle better in open field, but the ball skills are there. He's a deep ball eraser of sorts, Keith, and so I'm keeping my eyes on him. And then they got a corner they got from Arizona, Christian Roland Wallace, a big kind of big frame. I don't think he's like the tallest guy. I think he might be like 6'6", maybe 6'1", if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's 6 foot even, 200 pounds, but he's well filled in terms of his body type and his frame, muscular build, strong kid, can play press man, be physical at the line of scrimmage, but also I think he could play some zone as well. So I think he's a guy that could be one of those late, those day 3 type of steals for a team. You get them into the right situation. I think putting them at USC now where the lights are bright, right? Like, be honest, not a lot of people are watching Arizona football. So it is what it is. But they're going to watch, USC. And if he's out there balling against Michael Penix and Bo Nix and those offenses, man, that's going to help his draft stock immensely.
Yeah, I agree. I want to rewind real quick, DP, to Kalen Bullock, man. And because I don't know how much we talked about him in past podcasts, right? But as a prospect, he's going to be so polarizing because you're going to look at the ball skills and you're going to put up check marks, right? Check mark, check mark, check mark. And then you're going to look at his frame and be like, okay, this guy is 6'2", 190 pounds, right? Where do I play him? Because of, just the tackling and stuff like that. And I will tell you this is why, and I'm so happy, this is why we do this podcast, right? We want to speak about Kalen Bullock, right? And his tackling. Perfect game. We're talking about playing against Navy, right? The triple option. What is he going to do, right? Sometimes he's going to have the pitch man, right? Sometimes, because what they do is they align him so far back, but because of the numbers, right, with Navy, I think they're going to force him. He's going to have to play from a schematic standpoint. He's going to have to play closer to the box, right? And he's going to have to be involved in the run game. So that's what I'm going to be watching for, DP. How you talk about resume games. I know this is not even week 1. This is quote unquote week 0 against Navy, but this is somewhat of a resume game because it's such a heavy run offense. I want to see how willing he's going to be to tackle, how efficient and how effective he is also at tackling.
Also, so just to correct you, so he's not playing. They're not playing there. They're playing San Jose State. You got them mixed up with Sam Hartman.
I'm tripping with Notre Dame. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Notre Dame. But still, tackling is going to be big, regardless for Kalen Bullock, because like you said, he is that crazy enough. Like he's built like a receiver. You know what I mean? He's built like a slim
corner. Yeah, he's very slim.
or a corner. So it's like when they say that's just so, especially a free safety by himself, you're the last line of defense. Well, if the running back breaks and he gets back there, what are you going to do? And I remember, I think it was Tajay Spears, the Utah game. I didn't like what I saw from Kalen Bullock one-on-one in coverage, Keith. But about that Navy game before we transition, just to talk about the spread, Navy is a 20.5-point underdog, Keith, to the Fighting Irish. And this is the game's in Dublin, Ireland, so no one's no one's the home team. To bet against this spread, Keith, are you betting against the spread, or you think that Notre Dame's going to cover that 20.5? That's a lot of points.
That is a lot of points. It's so this is why they make the spreads, right? I'm going to take, this is week 0. I'm going to take Navy. I think I'm going to take Navy. I'm going to take Navy.
I'm with you. I'm taking Navy as well. We know that Navy's going to run that triple option and all that stuff. They can kind of, if they get going, they can kind of control the clock a little bit, drain it to where Notre Dame doesn't have all those possessions and all that.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and I'm thinking
Notre Dame's going to win by like 14 points, but I don't.
Yeah, and I think
20.5 is a lot.
From Notre Dame's perspective, we talked about their offensive line, right, being the key for them. So I don't think they're going to come out there and sling the ball 50 times and try to put up a bunch of points, right? What worries you? They got a good running back too.
Audric Estime.
Yeah. What worries you a little bit though is do they eventually wear down the Navy defensive line come the fourth quarter, and it's 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and break that thing open with DP. I think it can be tough, man. That's why I was trying to think this thing through, but that's why Vegas is what Vegas does, is who they are, right? Like they're gonna make those spreads and make it difficult. But DP, man, I want to keep this thing up, man. We talk about the pick 'em and going against the spread, right? Trying to figure out where we're gonna go with this. So coming up next, man, we're gonna do our pick 'ems, right? Who we think gonna win the game, but that may be kind of obvious. But we're gonna go talk about the spreads and things like that, and just have the conversation, man. Keep this thing rolling. And yes, listen. Kalen Bullock is not going against Navy this week. I got ahead of myself. I got too excited, wanted to see him tackle. He is not going against Navy. So I apologize for that. But coming up next, man, we are getting into this pick'em segment.
Family, August is here, and you know what that means? The official start of fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out best ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is one live snake draft with no waivers and no trades. Underdog sets your best lineup every single week. So if you're like me and you want to set it and forget it, then you got to try Underdog Fantasy Best Ball. Try it with their Best Ball Mania tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back, bigger and better than ever, with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an outrageous $3 million going to the winner. Last year, the winner drafted their team in July. So why are you sitting here talking to me? Go draft. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON. Get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LOCKEDON. It's time to pick a winning prediction of week 0 of actual college football. It feels so good, Keith. It feels good. But to start it out, because the games start at 2:30 Eastern time from the look of it, the schedule. And we talked about it. Navy. It's technically an away game, but it's in, Dublin, Ireland versus the 13th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Of course, I'm going Notre Dame. We picked against the spread just now. They're a 20.5-point favorite. I'm going with 14, maybe 17. I need Navy to keep it under 20 so I can, get that in the notch column against the spread.
I agree. I'm like you said, I'm right there with you. I think hopefully this thing comes in right at 20 points, right? And we look like geniuses. Comes right there. But I expect a lot of running the football. I expect, the head coaches to be trying to get the jitters out, trying to get comfortable. So potentially a slow starting game. But then, it'll kind of unravel from there. But hopefully it just doesn't unravel too fast.
No, not too fast. Not too fast. We got UTEP on the road going in to play Jacksonville State. Keith, who you picking in this matchup?
Oh, man, this one, I think this is another interesting matchup, too. I'm going to go with Jacksonville State. I really well-ran football program. They always have talent, right, for their level. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I was leaning at Jacksonville State as well, just for them to come out with this victory. Like I said, well-ran football team. It's week 0. Everything it takes a little bit for everybody to get going. So we got to see what they bring to the table in terms of UTEP. But I'm going to go Jacksonville State to protect home field. Next up, we have UMass on the road versus New Mexico State. Keith, 7 o'clock game on ESPN. I'm going New Mexico State in this one, Keith. I'm going New Mexico State. I think that they're going to be able to pull it out. They are looks like they're an 8-point favorite. They're 8-point favorite. New Mexico State is. They're protecting home. So that's just a 1-score game. I think that they're gonna. I think they're gonna beat the spread. I think they're gonna win by at least 10.
Okay, so basically you're picking a blowout, DP. You're picking a blowout by New Mexico State, but I'm right there with you, man. I'm rolling with New Mexico State on this one also.
Next up, we have Ohio traveling to San Diego State. To play the Aztecs. San Diego State. This is projected to be a close game. San Diego State is favored by 3 points. Keith, I'm actually going with the upset. I'm going with Ohio to go in on the road. I know it's week 0 and San Diego. They're always been a kind of a well-coached team, especially defensively. They've always had kind of some under the radar defensive prospects. That they just play good football on the defensive side of the ball, especially. But I think Ohio has done good, from the years that I've seen them, especially with the offensive side of the ball. They'll be able to run the football at times. I'm gonna go on the wild side. I'm gonna pick Ohio to go and get the upset.
I'm going the other way, DP, and for everything that you just said, I'm going San Diego State because it's always a well-run football team. They always have pretty good athletes on the perimeters, right? And then, like you said, the defensive scheme is complex. I remember, I think that he's the head coach of Mississippi State now, but he was the D coordinator of Mississippi State. But he actually came from, I want to say, San Diego State at some point, and we studied some of his schemes and some, defensively. And if they still ran some of those same things, I know that they were very complex, especially with the fronts and stuff. I expect some of that to confuse Ohio, so I'm going to go with San Diego State.
All right. Next up we have Hawaii traveling to Nashville to play the Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt's on the home 7:30 SEC Network, and the spread in this game, I think Vanderbilt is favored by 17.5. And I'm taking it. I think this is SEC football versus Hawaii. That physicality, they're going to run the ball. Vanderbilt's going to be able to lean on those boys in the trenches and win. Games are won and lost in the trenches, ladies and gentlemen. And Hawaii just has, to me, man, I would love to get, for nostalgia purposes, I would love for them to get back to that spread, just high octane passing offense, being up there to run and shoot and everything we used to see with rest in peace to Colt Brennan and all the quarterbacks we've seen come through there, man. I would love for them to get back to that. I don't think that's the case starting out this season. So I'm going Vanderbilt, and I'm thinking that they're going to match the spread at 17.5. I'm calling blowout.
Yeah, DP, I'm right there with you, man. Long are the days of, Colt Brennan and them putting up 50, 55 points on people, scoring at will, right, whenever they wanted to, with Hawaii. So I'm definitely going with Vanderbilt. I've I've coached at Vanderbilt, I think twice, right? I was there twice. And this is it's not a very big stadium, right? But when they fill that thing out, they can definitely get after it. And Vanderbilt always has NFL prospects, right? Do they have 10 to 15 to be in SEC championship contention? No, but they have enough to be competitive in football games. And they have a wide receiver out there also, that can play pretty decent football. So I think this would be a coming out showing for him. So I'm definitely looking forward towards that, DP. And the wide receiver, I believe, is Will Shepard. So be on the lookout for Will Shepard.
Gotcha. Next up, we got San Jose State going into the Coliseum versus the USC Trojans, the number 6 ranked, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Pac-12 network. And USC is favored by 30 points. Book it. Trojans.
I'm taking Caleb Williams.
4 tutties for my guy Caleb Williams over there, man.
I don't even know if it might be 6, DP. I'm taking Caleb Williams. I think he comes in there. He's gonna sling the rock, man. You watch him, right, and you talk about LA And then him, I don't want to say understanding everything about LA, right? Because he's not originally from there, but I think he's embracing the big lights right now. So I think he's gonna want to come in there and put on a show, man. I won the Heisman last year. People are saying that I may not be like I am quarterback one, but it may be somebody else. I think he's gonna have a chip on the shoulder and coming in like, let me show everybody why there's no doubt that I am quarterback one in this class. He's gonna start this thing off with week 0 against San Jose State.
Yep, San Jose State. And last up, Keith, we have the FIU, Florida International, going in to play La Tech, Louisiana Tech, 9 p.m. They have a prospect, a former, I think, 4-star linebacker, Avery Huff. I believe he was at the University of Miami. He transferred there. So hopefully I would like to see him get on the field and showcase what he's doing. He's kind of an undersized linebacker, kind of almost built like a safety. He's like 210 pounds. So he might be a safety in the NFL, but I'm looking forward to seeing him. In terms of this game, I think La Tech, Louisiana Tech, they're coming down to Louisiana. I think they're going to be able to protect home field. And this is a team that, I can't remember if they still run the spread, but I'm picking them to win this game.
Yeah, I'm picking Louisiana Tech also, man. It's Louisiana Tech. They're one of those programs that every so often, and it's often, right, that they have a good solid football program, right? They're a 8, 9, 10 win team. They're one of those group of 5 teams that can crack the top 25, but they're always in the fringe of that, right? And then they put out draft prospects, man. They put out draft prospects every single year. So I'm gonna pick Louisiana Tech also. This is one of those teams, DP, like even with conference realignment and everything, they're one of those teams where can you see them getting bumped up, right? Because their roster is usually pretty good for their conference. So I'm definitely going to Louisiana Tech. I think it's a lot of talent. Like you said, you talked about the linebacker, but obviously as we get through this year, there's going to be more and more guys that uncover themselves.
Yeah, Parker McNeil. I think Marquise Crosby, the running back, is still there. I'm looking for a sophomore kid, almost ran for 1,000 yards. I think that they'll be able to get the run game going, get the play action pass and the RPO game. So, listen, guys, we just broke down week 0 of college football. It felt good to get that out of the way. It felt good to talk about these games, man, and these prospects in these matchups, because week 1 is next week. And that's what everybody's on the schedule, all those big time programs, all those. But at the same time, we're going to talk about the little guys as well. We're not going to let them slip under the radar. But Keith, man, it was a fun show, brother.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it, man. Y'all make sure y'all tap in with us, man. Like we said, week 0, right? So that was kind of preseason for us, knocking off the cobwebs a little bit for this college football thing. And like I said, next week we'll have everybody playing, so we'll really be able to hit you with all the action, all the prospects. So y'all make sure to stay tapped in with us. Like I said, if they're playing college football, that means there's some NFL draft prospects out there, and your guys are going to watch them. So definitely shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us. And like I said, man, tweet at us because we tweet back, man. Let's talk about college football this weekend. Let's talk about the preseason. We are officially full go, right? Like everybody's playing football right now. Even if you want to talk about a high school prospect from time to time, we are all the way go, man. We're all go on this, man. Definitely appreciate y'all tapping in with us.
For sure. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it's available on YouTube. Hit the bell notification so you're notified whenever we drop content on this channel. Y'all, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. Like he said, for being the family and for being our everydayers. It is Friday. Y'all have a fun football-filled weekend, preseason football, college football, week 0. Holler at us on Twitter. You can find and follow me at DP_NFL. Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code. Talk to us because we do talk back. Come and join the conversation again on Monday on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.